what transpired last evening when the president gave his latest address to the nation. He spoke about the fact that yes, Uganda is grappling with the hard economic times, but he told Ugandans to understand that to get forward in ensuring that we overcome these particular hardships, he had two solutions that stood out. Electric cars to ease the whole issue of fuel, and he also spoke about the fact that the railway system will be able to help us get ahead, and that we really don't have a crisis at hand, and that we should trust that whatever is happening, we shall be resilient and overcome as a people. What's your reaction, Mr. Honorable Komakech?
Thank you so much, viewers of NTV.
You look very pensive, by the way.
Thanks. Hope sort of flatter. One thing I would love to communicate to my countrymen and women: we are not on the right trajectory. If the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who I respect so much, comes out and say that there isn't a crisis in Uganda, then one of us is lying to the other. Either he's lying to us, or we, the people of the Republic of Uganda, are lying to our president. I can categorically state it to you that there is a crisis in Uganda. Just this morning before I came for this show, 5 women had lost their lives in my constituency. The ambulances don't have fuel. Now, if we are going to have electric cars coming, you're not going to have electric ambulances? No, but is known for being an agricultural region. Uganda is. Are we going to have electric tractors? I've seen Tira come up. It has come up with Porsche cars for the rich men, for the rich women, for the well-off to do. Are we going to have electric bicycles distributed to the villagers? Why is the leadership tending to look upon the wealthier and neglecting the poor? Well, let's go to Omeme. How much is the unit of electricity right now? It's an electric. There are people who can't afford paying a unit of electricity current, leave alone the tariff charging, because it's inconsistent. You go to people who live in apartments, their rating is so different. No, I took a survey 1 week back. I live in an apartment. No, watching a TV, I'll use 3 units. A TV set. Yeah. The same TV I got, I went to a slum, and I've been living in slum for the 2 weeks to understand what's happening in this country. The same TV I've consumed 3 units for now 3 weeks, and it's still on. Yeah. So I ask myself, what is happening to this country?
Wait a minute. Take us back to what you're saying.
Let me take you back. I have a 43-inch screen TV. Yep. I live in an apartment. No, I have 3 units. It did not last for 5 days. Only screen, nothing else. Nothing. And I was doing a survey. I carry the same screen because I come from the slums. I have a home in the slums. I went back to my old home, and lived there. I've lived there now for 3 weeks, watching the same screen. And yesterday I watched
using the same
power, the same company. 3 units are still on. I'm on 2.5 as I came this morning. 2.5. Why are we having the inequality?
All right, you introduced something very, very pertinent, and I'm going to take this up by calling up later in the day the honchos at the Electricity Regulatory Authority.
No, before you break me off, there's a difference between the meters. There's a difference between the meters. The meters that work in apartment and in shopping malls are so different from the meters that work in these slums. No,
perhaps it's because they know the slum dwellers are constrained, so the meters given to them should be a little bit.
Now, that's where we get it wrong.
Information.
We have one country.
Information on that. Thank you so much. Actually, there are ongoing products developed by REA, Regulatory.
The electricity.
Rural
Electrification.
Yes, agency. Now, one of the products is to ensure that different people are charged differently. In the slums, we have been informed. The problem is that they have not publicized their products. But the plan is for slums, their unit will be charged at 250 Uganda shillings. Then between those are people who consume 15 units a month. Now, from 15 units to 80 units, we are charged, currently it was 900, which we expected to lower to 700 Uganda shillings. Between 15 to 80. From 80 to 150 units, if you consume them, that is what we mean, not paying for them.
Not paying for them.
That means that is a household that can also go for cooking using electricity. Their unit, the other unit was at 900. This unit is now going to cost 400 Uganda shillings. So those are some of the new products, and we have been requesting them to come on the media to explain. They have come up with some of the adverts. Now you can cook using power. You can, but how? People are not aware.
People are not aware.
So those are the differences. Maybe his challenge is that people who dwell in the slums probably may have the same welfare as people who live in Padel. So why should Padel people not also pay 250 per unit?
All right.
But if
does that settle your...
it doesn't at all. I was with the State Minister of Energy.
All right.
No, I was trying to get my schools, the primary schools, electricity. And I quote, he said, will the local government be able to pay for the bills? I'm like, excuse me. It's a government. It's like, no, we get electricity and they can't pay for these bills, so they have to disconnect, and they start cheating what umeme. So why don't you seek for solar? Then I wouldn't understand. There's something not quite right in this country.
Quite right in this country. Well understood, Honourable Komakaicha. Honourable Nachimwero, President's speech. What's the takeaway?
Culturally, it is also not good to begin without greeting our viewers.
Oh, please.
Morning viewers, most especially the people from Chiboga.
Okay.
Greetings to you all. Me as an environmentalist, I was somehow touched when the president finally saw that we really need to go clean energy. We have two types of energy that we have always advocated for. The renewable energy and clean energy. Clean energy has to do with the proposals of the hydro, thermal, LPG, the gas energy that people use, and then also the natural gas. And then the renewable, we are talking about the two, one being solar and wind. So these two types of energy are very important for us, especially in this current trend of climate change. We do not want to expose a lot of greenhouse gases, and we believe that these are the two types of energy that can enable people exploit a lot of products using clean energy while emitting less greenhouse gases. So, but we have already always informed the public that other countries are already far with it. So far we already have motorcycles. Now we are heading to vehicles. When we traveled, we used these vehicles, and we have been looking at these companies that are promoting the same technology in the European countries. Why is it that they don't bring it here? Probably it was the working environment. And slowly by slowly, Chiboga, Padel will still have these vehicles, and stations, I know people are worried, where will I charge from? The stations shall have all these technologies to help us charge.
Do we have a timeline, some sort of framework for all this? When you speak about the fact that charging points will be somewhere where, for example, in Chiboga, a person who is using a Roko pickup can quickly transition into an electric car and also be able to continue with work smoothly. How?
And these vehicles, we visited some, we were demonstrated to a vehicle that uses natural gas in Tanzania. These vehicles have two systems. They are not completely going to drive with fuel. They will have two systems, but it may also incur many Ugandans extra cost to incorporate that other technology of also using power. But it is a shift. We already informed Ugandans that actually that is where we need to explore our oil very, very fast. Otherwise, the technologies of using electric vehicles, motorcycles, when they come aboard,
Is that
the
a
price for
practical,
fuel is
is that a practical solution to the troubles that the average Ugandan faces, even if we are to look at a 1-year span? Can it settle the problems we are facing right now, or even attend to the pain?
By the way, that one is also not a short-term solution. I could rate it as a mid-term.
Mid-term?
Yes, it is not an immediate one, because look at all vehicles here. We do not have any that is electric. So the process of transforming some of the vehicles that we have, that one is not a short-term. But there are also other proposals. For example, when we got out of COVID, again now, fuel went up. As these motorists are trying to cope up with the prices, then you are chasing them out of the city. So we also need to have a gender, we need to be gender sensitive. How are you helping your population run away from these challenges? And when somebody is trying to cope up, then you
introduce something else. You seem to be itching.
And
to
how much is our oil
information?
going to cost?
Please do.
Honorable, I really have. No? Uganda is in a crisis.
Yeah.
Is on drip. They have diagnosed the problem. Before we go for the mid-term and the long-term, we need an emergency action.
Yeah.
Objective one taken. Yeah. Now the speech was about that locals, yeah, Ugandans, expected to hear the president say, no, we have released this amount of money, trillion, it's going into the fuel reserve, let's buy fuel, and then the prices go low. Now, that's the emergency. No one is against the electric cars. The electric cars have been there for almost 2 or 3 years. You talk about them, but that poor Ugandan down there, what's the take-home package to solve the crisis right now? So that we can back and start preparing.
All right, we're going to have to leave a reaction to the president's speech right there and delve into the topic of our discussion, the Kickstarter discussion this morning. Deputy Speaker, Right Honourable Thomas Taiba, on Thursday handed a vote on the government's proposal to acquire 150,000 preference shares worth about 200 billion Uganda shillings in the Roko construction company, which action has been roundly criticised by the opposition in Parliament. MPs contend the suspension of this week's parliamentary sittings, affiliating the reason to the Speaker making cover to her deputy's action. What happened, Mr. Kumakechi?
On that lucky day, I call it a lucky day, I was in the house.
How do you call it a lucky day?
It's a lucky day because for once in the history of Uganda, Ugandans were able to witness the coming back of, should I call it Jesus, in the Parliament of Uganda. You know, because the way the Parliament was adjourned was in arrears. Why this? One, it's okay for Roko to be liquidated. It's okay. Just like it will be okay for any company. Yeah. Uganda Registration Bureau states that every year 150 companies seek for liquidation from the government. And in 2021, from the 150, only 26 of the companies were liquidated, which is okay. No, it's totally okay. The reason is, if companies locally owned by Ugandans are asking for funding and government gives them, no, it kind of gives that picture that it's a government for the people and by the people, and the money is going back to what? To the people. My only query would come, how was it done in Parliament? In the Financial in the Financial Management Act, Section 23, it says that government will not be allowed to enter into a deal that exceeds more than 1 year. Should it enter, should that vote be passed on, the Parliament should pass it. And this is where I'm afraid of being in the 11th Parliament. You know, we have a very wise president. I'm telling you, and mark my word, I'll come back here and you'll ask me. No, the executive is very clean, very clean. Right now it's a parliament, meaning it's parliament that has passed this particular amount, 202 billion. It's not the executive. So the executive is clean. So that common person there is going to say, to ask, who passed the what? The motion. It's parliament. How was it passed? Now, parliament works on rules of procedure. and I'm a new member of Parliament, and I've been taught the rules of procedure are the Bible of Parliament. Even in our orientation, they really marked rules of procedure, as the Bible, as the Bible. And really, they should be adhered to the letter. Civility tells me not to judge my superior, because obviously the speaker is my superior, and I can't go, and the speaker has all the powers, mark you. But the way my friend, the Right Honorable Taibwa, passed this particular bill leaves a lot of question to the other companies. Let's just consider a fact here. On that day, what we do know is, and I'll read it very vividly so that we don't distort any fact. The order paper by the Clerk of Parliament was silent on the motion by the Leader of Opposition at notice of sitting suspension. Mr. Matthias Impuga, for which he issued a notice to the Speaker seeking to challenge the vote taken in relation to the Roko deal, but they will resume next week. This brought discomfort to members of Parliament. You will be telling us exactly what kind of discomfort this is. But what is your take on the deal itself?
The deal has challenges related to two items. One of them is on the rules of procedure, on how Parliament approved that. And then the other one is on the content of the decision. So when you look at the content of the decision, first of all, Roko, to request us to go that other way. Who are you? There must have been a due diligence done to tell us how indebted are you, how have you been moving on, what is your worth in this country, who owns you. We must get all these facts right, which we didn't. What we call the Uganda Development Corporation was supposed to conduct this due diligence, but they claim that they failed to identify money to conduct this exercise. Have you read that report that details exactly why Roko needs this rescue? It says 1,945 Ugandans are employed with Roko. And that is what we need to sort out. In terms of taxes, on an annual basis, Roko Construction Company pays 15.1 billion Uganda shillings. That's a staggering sum. And 200 billion shillings needed for the rescue. When you look at it and juxtapose it with what, well, a company says, rescue us. No, we are good for the economy. It is okay for the country to rescue, but who are we rescuing? Why him? Why them? Because we have had the requests from Sembule, which were put down. And Uganda government doesn't have 51% shares in this company. It doesn't. Because that is what would assure us that when we bail this company out, then we shall sort out Uganda's fears, the tax payment will be coming through, and then the utilization of the revenue will actually come to, you know, Uganda's coffers. All this information is not anywhere. The ownership of the company is not. We are not aware. We are just rumors. We feel that you know, this business of helping companies from abroad. Okay, they may have come from abroad, but when the ownership is us. No, Roko was incorporated in Uganda more than 45 years ago. And who are the shareholders? It's owned by. It's more like a family. The Collars. The gentleman who majority shares right now. But the fact that the company has been in Uganda, operated in Uganda for the last 50 years, it is a Ugandan company. Wouldn't you want to get information, not necessarily to debunk the fact that they are taking or they're seeking rescue, but to actually help you understand why they need to be rescued? And you know, there are certain points that put us off. Already the moment you say that the shareholding by buying 150,000 shares, the company will come to the taxpayer in a way. No, we should not look at it. You will have a portion. It is like correcting a mistake. You know, when these people want us to go into something that is very problematic, they start by telling us the number of youth that will have lost jobs. You see, the little tax they are talking about versus the investment we are going to put in. Currently, we are just crawling as far as economic management is concerned. You had the other time refuting the World Bank's statement that no, you are not in the middle income statement. We are the ones who put the yardstick. But we try to insist, you know, how do you now refute people's own milestone? And you're like, no, I'm there. When the owners of the indicator are saying you are not there. So we have to look at all these issues. How is the Roko request brought to Parliament? How is it approved? It was not approved well. Businesses, I mean votes that belong to parliamentary business to follow cannot just be brought on a table within a sitting, because on that very day it was indicated that Roko business is in the business to follow. So as members of Parliament, you're like, yes, let's deliberate on other things. This is in business to follow. But you know, the earlier statements by the Deputy Speaker, this time around, we are bringing this, we must finish it, whether you like it or not.
So we have two precedents or events that are now being questioned. The motion itself that seeks to ensure that government buys these shares, but also suspension of Parliament. The fact that that is also done on the backdrop of a controversial issue means it's controversial in itself. What is the remedy here, Honorable Komakechi?
Maybe before I come to that, let me take back to Roko. Why Roko? In politics, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. You eat with me, I eat with you. Yeah. Roko is one of the oldest companies.
Wow.
That's just it. No, you help President Museveni into State House. He'll help you. You help Komakechi into retaining his seat. Obviously, I'll think about you. That's plain true. You know, we should master this. Roko was there for the government. Roko helped this government. The president settled it. When the founder or the owner of Roko passed on, if he settled it, it's in public domain. Would you really want to see such a company go down? Leave alone that. Roko had portrayed this beautiful name for Uganda. You know, it was in Juba, it had become international. So we are proud of it. I'm not against the government coming to help Roko. It's okay, but it's good economics. It's a procedure. Now, then the adjournment of the House. The Speaker has the right to when whatsoever to adjourn the House at his own disgrace. Now, would I come and question why are you adjourning the House? But then there'll be things happening behind the what? Behind the scenes. Now, one of the issues would think like, why has the Speaker adjourned the House? We could only say that maybe he's hiding away from the what? From the portal that he dug, which I cannot, and let it be on record, I cannot quantify that that's what he's doing. Some critics will say, oh, no, maybe they are concentrating on the what? On the election. In Eastern Uganda. So it's whatsoever, but then the rules of procedure really give the Speaker the audacity, the power, which cannot be challenged actually by any member of Parliament, to adjourn the House at whatever time. I remember when the late Jacob Olanya, may he rest in peace, actually, that's the day I realized he had passed on. The Speaker was in the House and she immediately just adjourned the House at 3, we just popped him reading the order paper and going through, then House adjournment. We are like, what? How is this happening? Then she's leaving. Then the following day, so the Speaker always knows what's happening behind the scene before they actually present. And that gives her the leeway, him or her the leeway to. Fortunately, unfortunately, the procedure, the rules of procedure, that does give. Although we, the members of Parliament, we can actually come up and sign for resumption of the House if you have 3/4 of the signatures coming up. Then the other bit I wanted to knock on, how maybe the Deputy Speaker could have behaved the way he did. No, NRM has the majority of members of Parliament. No, there was no need really to push on. But there has been a lag. NRM has not been having a chief whip for almost 3 or 4 months. Yeah, sure. So there has been a disorganization in NRM. They were having a problem controlling their own flocks. No, at some point, maybe they were scared. NRM will end up going to opposition and then they fight them. And then, why would I do this? All right. I would just go ahead with that.
But that is when positions each. Yeah, you know, sometimes you're like, no, we shall join you. We shall come to your government. You take things for granted. But that is when you really feel that, you know, the position I took
Sure.
It is not mine.
That seems like
I am just on remote.
That seems like a veiled attack on
no, that is it.
some
And
politicians.
as opposition, we are petitioning the Speaker of Parliament to actually review the circumstances in which Parliament approved. Actually, Parliament didn't approve. According to what happened, it is the Speaker.
Parliament approved. It's on an answer.
Yeah, all right, now let's look at the controversy of the deal is, well, no doubt, everyone sees that. But when you look at the fact that you spoke about the fact that apparently when they, I think you refer to government, want to do something, they peddle the argument that so many Ugandans are going to be affected when this doesn't happen. But let's look at the reality on the ground.
Yes.
People are already grappling with very hard economic times. And most of the people who face the wrath of this kind of trajectory are workers, for example, in the construction sector. We have a booming real estate sector, and Roko construction and others are part of that. Wouldn't you really see that this must stay and it should continue, so that at the end of the day, the trickle-down effect can be felt by the average Ugandan?
No, that is not the only company. We want to put things right. We want to bail out companies that we hope will give back. And Uganda has loved it.
In other words, you're asking that whichever company right now is in distress and is Ugandan owned or owned by Ugandans should come out right now.
Let's come up with a concrete plan of how we are going to bail them out. And let's also have a history of the companies that we bailed out already. Let's see the performance and how they have been submitting the returns to the Ugandan government. And then we make a very nice decision. Because when you look at the contracts that Ugandan government has with Roko, there are many, yes, but in billions, but still the other contracts Roko has with other private sector are also many. So if Ugandan government, since 19 what? When did Uganda, I mean Roko, start working in Uganda?
Roko started in the 1950s.
For all those years, Ugandan government has been giving you a conducive environment, has been giving you contracts. You have also been subcontracting. Don't you think there are also very many other companies that have even been denied the contracts, but they are trying to strive and you know, remain in service? Likewise, these are the small businesses. There are very many businesses that have always requested for bails out.
So how can this be tackled? Is it a minority report that can, an MP somewhere who is more interested perhaps than you are can come up with it, or you intend to take it on?
We have signed a petition.
You intend to take it on?
It is already presented.
Away from the petition, it's already presented.
Yes.
Seeking all companies a detailed analysis.
Oh, the one, yes.
A detailed analysis of all companies that have been rescued, that need to be rescued, that are Ugandan owned, so that we can understand.
Yes. We expected actually that one to come out of the Speaker's recommendation. The first time the report was read, the Speaker recommended that they should go back, the Minister should get us a report of how they have been performing, how other companies similar to Roko are moving on, such that we make a very nice decision as far as bailing this Roko is concerned. As we were waiting for the report, the other following day, the Deputy Speaker comes up and brings business to follow on the ongoing parliamentary flow. So which we feel wasn't right. Procedurally, it was not right. And by the way, maybe you need to find out, when very many said no, all nay, on contrary, still the eyes had it this time around. Because the numbers game plays out within Parliament. No, the numbers, how do you, because the voice of nay came out sounded more than the yes, the eyes. The eyes. But still, it's finished, game finished. The eyes have it.
What does this speak of the new administration in Parliament for the commission that is, of course, led by the Speaker? Are we seeing a Speaker who is going to be fighting a lot of controversies, or this is just a blip?
The 11th Parliament had the challenge of winning the trust of the people. If you go to the streets now and ask, do you need the Parliament? Actually, the majority of people will tell you we don't need that Parliament. Frankly, And the Speaker had taken on this mantle to win back the trust of the people. The coffee deal, it was out. We won people's trust. 11th Parliament has actually been performing extremely well until yesterday, and it's a turning point. Would I, Komakech, want to be associated to this kind of history? No. I don't think I want that. Would the Speaker want this to go down with her? I don't think she would. And I'm not surprised that it was the Deputy Speaker. Because at this time you could say maybe, you know, we always have that, the real person and then the person helping the real person. So the Speaker will come out and explain, okay, this happened and maybe it will go on. But then all I know, the Deputy Speaker has good interest for the country, just like the Speaker, and that promised, we know they did on, because when you stand to speak on the floor of Parliament, you can get the pressure. Do you have the content? Do you have the numbers? Do you have the figures? This is what they want.
Have you done your research?
Yeah, have you done your research? And this has been going on. That means that really they want to win back people's hearts, and we did. So I only pray that we do not continue in this trajectory of walking like a duck, then quacking like a duck. Obviously, we'll be a duck.
All right, enough of the Roko construction controversy. And we do hope whatever petitions MPs are up to, we shall get the details and see exactly how that plays out and where it leaves us. Let's switch debate to the Soroti by-election, where the National Resistance Movement is up against the Forum for Democratic Change and, on the peripheral aspect of it, Uganda People's Congress. What do you make of the election? Of course, people have already started voting in the 15 wards in Soroti East. NRM, FDC, do you see a ray of light for the opposition given the trajectory or the nature of by-elections that have been held in the recent past?
I've never liked by-elections.
You wouldn't want that to happen to you?
I almost had one in my constituency. I almost had one. But I went through. By-elections kind of distort the politics of the country. Look at Honorable Chagulanyi. He came through a by-election. And right now, as I speak, Uganda is cruising at the speed of a by-election that was held the day Honorable Chagulanyi was brought in. Accept it whether you want it or you do not want. When it comes to by-election, it isn't about the people of Soroti now. No, it has been hijacked. You'll find NRM top wigs there, UPC top wigs there.
It is the same thing that would happen in a mainstream election.
No. Let me tell you, I've been there.
Okay.
Mainstream election, the president comes in, but he's in for himself. He'll chap in one or two. It's upon you to win your election. You do not want to have a by-election. Actually, I'm feeling so sorry for my colleague, former colleague, Honorable Atan. I'm really feeling so sorry for him. That pressure is enormous because there's a lot of money being brought in.
Yes.
State machinery being brought in. All these political big giants are in. Imagine having Chiza Besigye, Honorable Chiza Besigye, Honorable Chagulanyi. Then you're having the entire team of NUP there. You're having FDC, the entire team of FDC. Now, this side you have NRM. Are we really going to have that beat, the feel of the people? What people want? Oh, it's going to be money influencing everyone. Obviously, either party. FDC is going to bring in money. Yeah. So is NRM. People are broke. Why are we even talking about Soroti election? Why? In Karamoja, people are dying. Fuel prices are hiking up. Would we think it was brought in a phase to kind of shift our momentum from the real problem? And this is one thing I have witnessed from the few years I've been in politics. When there is something hitching up, another thing comes up. And Ugandans are so interesting that they are easily persuaded away. Right now we are talking about Soroti election. But after tomorrow, that election is not going to change the fuel prices. That election is not going to reduce on the food scarcity in Pade, in Agago, in Northern Region, in Central. No, we have forgotten that thousands of youths are going to lose their jobs on the streets of Kampala. Because there is there's a law coming up that any border to function within Kampala should be at least 9 kilometers from what? From the city center. Now, who is going to use the border if it's out of we are forgetting that our workers are losing their jobs. We are consulting on Roko, which is saving 2,000. Do you know how many border men are on the streets that are going to lose their jobs?
Well, those are sentiments that are valid and understandable. I believe you do agree entirely with him, but what's your assessment?
No, it's not entirely.
You don't entirely agree with him?
Yeah, he was bringing a wrong precedence.
Okay.
That when we had the by-election.
It was a by-election.
That is when Chagulanyi came in. But I thought that was happiness to the country.
It was happiness to the country.
So it cannot be that
happiness to the country.
Yes,
right.
yes.
You would be the president.
I want to go into the dynamics of whether a person who comes through a by-election turns out to be or to gain more or greater political capital than a person who has participated in mainstream elections. The dispensation is clear. All Ugandans can participate in an election at the time they are required to, if a seat falls vacant. Now that anybody can take advantage of that is entirely on them, the ability to perform and do themselves a favor. What's your take on Soroti?
Oh, Soroti, first of all, we have to encourage our people to proceed.
Who are your people? Tell us.
Soroti residents, Soroti voters, please proceed to your polling stations and vote, because that is the first assurance of the win. Now, there are certain rules that we need to change. There are certain constitutional reviews that are needed.
Yeah.
When you look at the petition, what brought this by-election, there are certain loopholes. If Electoral Commission did a mistake, and then we had to go back for the by-elections, and the mistake was for Electoral Commission. Me as somebody who had got the place, who had gotten my win, how does the Electoral Commission now come in?
Before you continue, let me just inform the viewers exactly how this came about, the by-election in Soroti East.
Yes.
The Electoral Commission claimed that some of the constituencies had not been demarcated at the time of the election, and technically the people within those places or wards were disenfranchised. In other words, they didn't have an opportunity to vote a leader of their choice, and that it was incumbent upon the system to ensure that an election is done again to give them an opportunity. But here is an election that had been won on merit, clearly.
Yes.
You were making that point.
That is what I was bringing out, that people need to know what exactly brought us to these, petitions and also these cases and by-elections, in order to qualify whether this is good or not bad. My colleague, for you to say that all by-elections are bad. No, there are circumstances. But what we want to tell Electoral Commission, in order to avoid some of these scenarios, we also need to check ourselves. We have loopholes in the system, but in the legal jurisdiction, where in such a case, me who won my seat in such a manner, should I really go back to a by-election? Who should bear the challenge? Because leaving the challenge to AT the incumbent MP really is not fair. If the mistake was yours, and then you put us together in the same basket, that suffer the same way. The one I won is suffering with me the same way.
What would you advise the Electoral Commission or the government to do in this particular scenario? To suspend that election? What exactly should they have done?
At least they should part with some money.
Part with money to
the incumbent. To the incumbent. The one who has been disorganized, Okay. Yeah, they should seriously part with money, a lot of it. That is when at least this incumbent, Honorable AT, would feel justice. Otherwise,
well, that gives the Honorable AT and anybody who will find themselves in such a position the opportunity to petition again a court system to challenge the fact that his or her election has been nullified.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be the most plausible solution to such an arrangement, Mr. Komakech?
That word, running a campaign isn't cheap. When I told you that I really feel sorry for my colleague who are just out of general campaigns, it's 1 year down the road. To run a campaign, you need close to, if it's little, you need around 700 million. And I can assure you, it doesn't have that money. Why? As soon as you get into Parliament, the voters are expecting to deliver.
Yeah.
And if you have a court case on you, you're on that pressure. You can't save. Now, where does the Electoral Commission come in? No, I'll agree with my colleague here. No? Electoral Commission should at least be be challenged to pay back to the to the incumbent, because so that he can facilitate his campaigns. So it's all on judicial matters.
That will be a whole new arrangement where you're going into an
because
election.
It's their loss, to be
and the referee in that election pays you money as a result, of course.
To participate in that election, you pay 3 million.
It is your mistake.
To participate in that election, Honorable, you pay 3 million. To get nominated, you pay 3 million. They have the money. Atan paid 3 million.
Has there been any attempt by outsiders away from the race itself to question and bring this particular contradiction to bear within the system, so that a precedent that has been set is not repeated?
So that is what the Electoral Commission always tells us, that everything will now be in order. But you never know, certain mistakes come aboard. So that's pretty much very interesting, no doubt. But of course, what we do know right now is that voting has begun, and some of the voters who are enthusiastic are making their way to the polling stations. Whoever is watching and you are in Soroti, this, as the Honorable Kaya Christine Nachimero has alluded to, is important. So go out there and ensure that you cast your ballot, because at the end of the day, this is pretty much very important. But the president the other day spoke of something that he's consistently told Ugandans, that if you do not vote the person who has access to me, then service delivery to you is something that might be a bit of a problem. It is typical political rhetoric for a president to use that, but again, it doesn't augur well for national development, when if you don't have access to the president, then you cannot condition the kind of development that you want. Shouldn't the president be brought to book on this? We are, by the way, affirming to the populace that it is constitutional to belong to different parties, political parties. I belong to National Unity Platform, you belong to? I'm
independent.
He's independent, but usually these ones are leaning.
You have a leaning. Where do you lean?
I'm leaning.
Where do you lean?
No, if NRM has the zeal for development of the country, I'll lean with NRM. If they do, I will go with them. If FTC does, that's what independence means. But we are many of us.
Okay, before that need comes or arises, are you a liberal? Are you a far right?
I'm a more liberal.
You're a liberal. All right, you had a point you're making.
Yeah. So what we are still confirming to our people is that it is constitutional to belong to very many political parties. Actually, the Republic of Uganda is still open to more political parties. So we are not doing a disservice, or we are not illegal to operate the way we are operating. And then if districts, for example, that have been bringing NRMs would have been in some other stage of development.
But they seem to be.
But look at Chiboga. We have always been loyal. They have, many have been loyal to bringing MPs who are quoted that they work with him. But working with him, for us, we understand working with him in a different way. Working with him would mean better service delivery, good water, roads.
All right,
yes,
there you have it.
It doesn't come out clear.
Honorable Kaya Christine Nachimero, MP for... all right, hello, wherever you're watching from. The hashtag on Twitter is Morning at NTV. We're glad you're still with us. We've been specifically requested to ensure that this discussion continues, because we are closely monitoring what is happening in Soroti in light of the by-election polls and the voting that is already underway. Voting began at 7:05 a.m. and is expected to go until 5 p.m. when, of course, all stations will be closed, and then the counting of the ballot will begin. Of course, we do expect the announcement of a winner to be in by at least midnight. The returning officer there has said everything is in position and set to ensure that this goes on smoothly. But of course, it is a fever pitch, even despite the fact that the polling is going on right now. What we do know is that the FDC candidate has been rounded up by the police after he cast his ballot. My producer has footage that could be running within a few minutes from now that will help us understand exactly what is on ground. Our reporters too, Jackson Onyango and Jima Kiria, are on ground and shall be bringing us updates on what is happening. But allow me return to the studio where I have the woman MP for Chivoga, that is Honorable Kaya Christine Nachimwero, and of course the MP for Aru South County, Christopher Komakech. Lady and gentlemen, we were talking about the fact that the election itself has cast a shadow on Uganda's politics, the fact that a lot of money is being injected into it, but most importantly, the national resistance movement exerting the pressure of state machinery and the connotation of coin. The National Unity Platform finds itself in a very uncomfortable position right now. Supporting an FDC candidate is not a bad thing. Opposition parties must be seen to collaborate, to cooperate and push each other. However, as the leading opposition party by numbers in parliament, if you are seen to be unable to field candidates within positions like these, that should help the numbers game for you to go up without necessarily looking at the opposition as the greater. Talks of an opposition party perhaps that is grappling with being in the kindergarten of opposition, as Mao described yesterday. Is that so?
It is not so. You always weigh options.
Yeah.
So as a NUP, we had to weigh an option, I mean 2 options, to either bring a candidate to compete with a turn or behave maturely. When we are called the lead opposition party
in parliament,
not in parliament, in Uganda. The whole Uganda, we not only in parliament.
Komakech is dying of laughter.
Which other opposition party is leading in Uganda?
I'll come to you.
What we are saying is that if you are the lead opposition party, it means there are very many parties, opposition parties behind you. And it is like your father. You eat with your kids. It doesn't mean that when you deny your kids the food, then you will eat all of it and finish it, or you'll be very comfortable. No, you cannot be comfortable when your kids are starving. So these are some of the options that we sit and weigh. Would it add a milestone to NUP if we brought a candidate, or it would add us more if we rallied behind who? Attend the FDC candidate. So we felt that the other option is far better.
Doesn't it vindicate some of the political commentators who say the National Unity Platform doesn't have a real stronghold outside of certain areas of the country, and that when it plays out the way it's playing out in Soroti, well, they say that is our justification?
Let me tell you, every party has a home ground, apart from some few. Even NRM has its home ground. Also, NUP has a home ground. So we begin from the home ground and then we proceed to other parts. And that is what, and we're moving on so well. So within 3 years, you expect the baby to do what? To have stood and then run, and actually we have even, we are running in a very short period of time. If we are to measure our performance, a party of 3 years, if we are to measure our performance, and then also compare a part of 37 years and measure the performance, I feel that we are somewhere firm. And this is just, we are not failing to put a candidate there. We just weigh the options of winning. We are looking at the outcome. Because what we want is to remove a dictator. So removing a dictator, what do you need? We need concerted efforts. As opposition, as the leaders, we are leading and others are following. So how do you enable others who are following to also join you with all their strength in removing a dictator? Those are some of the practices that we have to do.
Honorable
but in other places,
do you agree with Honorable Nachimwero's assessment of this whole situation?
First and foremost, I'd love to detach myself I would even assert yourself from calling the president of Uganda a dictator. The president of Uganda was elected. He was elected.
Wow.
Dictators are not elected, to be real. And many times, we politicians and Ugandans have used this word, tagging the president as a dictator. If someone is better than you, you should not really go around tarnishing, tarnishing his or her name. No, it wouldn't come. I myself know, for one, Museveni has stayed for long in power. But it's not him. It's the people who have made him stay in power. It's parties like FDC, NOP, UPC, DP, that has made Museveni stay in power. And today, if you see DP,
how? Take us through that. Take us through that.
UPC signed an alliance. You know, I love America for one thing. They have this kind of saying, Americans do not negotiate with terrorists. If you're opposition, please be opposition. Show us what you can do, because you're already a president in a making. You are a ruling party in making. But when you are cooking at your husband's place, then you go to the co-wife. Yeah, again, you know, you give me some tips of how I can seduce my man to stay with me. Then we don't understand. You are losing the country. And we are setting a wrong precedent to our children, our grandchildren who are coming in. NRM is gaining ground over weak political parties.
You've just poured a lot of scorn on Norbert Mao for what he did. And you're telling us that Norbert Mao is effectively going to ensure that President Yoweri Museveni doesn't go anywhere.
Get me right. Yeah.
No,
I started with UPC, then came to DP. Yeah.
All right.
You explain to me, the young generation, how a mighty party like DP is going to join an alliance. We don't know what was in the in the agreement. Well, obviously, we will not know. But the President Museveni, I know, is not stupid to wait at this particular juncture to go into an alliance with DP. This alliance has always been there. Has it yielded? No. President Paul Semogey went into an alliance. No, we have a president of UPC.
The context at the time was different.
The thing
it was establishment of a broad-based government.
Why don't they let us have the agreement
now then? Does not look at a broad-based government.
Do you have the agreement?
The one that Mao signed,
the one that
it's
Mao
been on social media all over. They are cooperating on governance, they are cooperating on human rights, they are cooperating on rule of law.
And you think NRM, the mighty NRM as they say it. Yesterday you had the president say, he brought actually a parable, and I love it when he brings the Bible into politics. When he said that...
All right, very quickly.
When he said that Jesus Christ went after one of the sheep that had left the flock, for one. No?
And left
NRM and did not mind about these other ones. Right now, NRMs are disgruntled, they are complaining, they are crying, but he had to go for DP. The one, he said the one.
All right.
And they came into power.
Honorable.
Let me conclude about NOP.
Very quickly, 1 second.
NOP is doing so well. Yeah, NOP is, there isn't anything like a young political party. That is demeaning. Yeah, they have the capacity. But should we give them the time? We give them the time on the expense of the politics of Uganda. That's
all right. Honorable Christopher Komakech, MP for Aru South County.
Yeah,
many thanks for joining us, and of course thanks for joining us too, Kaya Christine Nachimero. We shall continue this discussion after the